If you stopped loving wrestling or your co-hosts stopped loving wrestling and wanted to step away, would you be like, okay, we've got to bring this to an end now?
I am the Salamonster, and you're watching Tom Talks Rubbish right here on YouTube. And hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks and stand back with another interview. You know who this is because he's probably one of the most famous journalists in wrestling media, especially in the UK, and he's been on the channel before. I'm joined once again by Alex McCarthy, formerly of TalkSport, now of Mail Sport. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks for having me back, brother. Thanks for the invite.
So if we take this back, how did getting basically straight into the good stuff, what came first? Was it sort of, I know Wrestling Daily was still a thing when we spoke.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that first. How did that ultimately come to an end?
I'm just trying to line up the timeline now. I think it was just before last Christmas. Ollie Davis, that is, for those who are unaware, WrestleTalk's Ollie phoned me and he was just like, we've given it, I think it was 14 months, something like that.
Something like that.
It was close to that. And he was like, we're just not getting a return on our investment, and we think we're going to go in a different direction. I was like, okay, fine. The only real reservations I had, which I did tell Ollie at the time, was they had changed the show. They'd made it from an hour to 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And it kind of took away the heart and soul of what the show was. But the main thing was that WrestleTalk had run a poll of sorts on their YouTube. I believe it was on their YouTube. And they asked what kind of content people wanted. And the winner was something between 20, 30 minutes. So it was decreed that our show would be the one that was like the guinea pig. But where we were averaging at that point, I want to say maybe it was 3,000 or 4,000 views a show. And that was kind of rising. There was a couple of shows where we were getting sort of 6, 7. It just cut it in half. Like
because the duration was cut.
There's a direct correlation with that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As soon as the format was changed, basically just as the show used to peak, we were stopping now.
I know exactly what you mean.
It was, it was very. I voiced my concerns about it, but ultimately it's their show, right? They were just paying me to do their show, so I only had so much input, but I really can't have too many bad things to say at all about WrestleTalk and Ollie in particular. They were very supportive of the show. It was a great opportunity in the first place, all of that, cliche stuff. But, Ollie also was very, he was nice enough to trust me on certain things. Like I wanted the co-hosts were SB3, Steph, eventually Sat Iniangi. Obviously, Louis was there to start. Louis was the only one that was like given to us, which was fine. Louis a friend, but that was just because Ollie wanted the WrestleTalk perspective on it,
branding almost as well. Yeah.
But I said, okay, well, I do want different co-hosts, and I want to make sure because WrestleTalk is just predominantly a white male channel. It's got better now anyway. Denise. Yeah. He's had a show there and stuff like that, and Sat's still doing some cool stuff there. So I was like, look, SB3, this is a guy that he had interviewed me, and I just really liked him, and I just felt he had something, so I wanted to give him his first real opportunity. Like he's been around the game now, and he's on various channels, but at that point, nobody really knew who he was, so I wanted to give him a chance. Steph, the same thing. Steph's great. You know, the interview work she does, AEW coverage, everyone knows that now. But at this time, I think she was known for interview work for sure. Like, it's not like I unearthed her or anything like that, but just wanted to have more eyes on her. And plus I enjoy doing shows with her. So I thought it was important to get, you know, people that you wouldn't usually see on a WrestleTalk screen on a WrestleTalk screen. And in that aspect, it was successful. You know, we did our own kind of Black Pride Month with different guest hosts.
Mm-hmm.
We had lots of different women come on there as well. So there were some real successes with that show. But ultimately, you know, I guess it is about the bottom line, which I can't be mad at.
Totally.
I would have liked the show to have grown more. Who wouldn't? I do feel, you know, once we got put on our own YouTube channel, and we were basically at the bottom of the priorities for WrestleTalk, right? So with their built-in sort of subscribers and, you know, that, which is massive, you would get a head start, right? Having those people come and watch your show, but we were never on the main channel. They wanted to try and grow this other channel. And I said it was very important that we be promoted on.
It's now the WrestleTalk podcast channel. If I think
it is. I think. I mean, the Wrestling Dailies are still up there, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But I wanted us to be promoted on the other channel. Ultimately, that just didn't really happen. No matter how many, you know, how much we talked about it, they already had a lot to promote, right? So, you know, outside of a couple of Quizzlemania like appearances or, you know, like plugs, it just never really got the love that it needed for people to see it. You know, what I would dare say, those who did see it, we generally had really positive feedback. So I'm glad we got to do it. And if anything, you know, WrestleTalk were good to me. I even worked on their magazine for a while, and all of that has kind of led to what I'm doing with Inside the Ropes now. So you can't be mad at it.
No, definitely not. So before we go into Inside the Ropes and your current work with them, how did your departure from TalkSport come about? Was that sort of the way I'll phrase it, was it sort of I quit, I can't stand this anymore? Or was it just literally a new opportunity came about and you were like, I've got to pursue this?
Yeah, I'll never like bash TalkSport. I love TalkSport, still do. You know, who knows, in a different role or something, one day I might be able to return there. I would love to do that. I love the place. You know, Talk Wrestling is still a thing. You know, we're not getting shows out as regularly as I would like because mine and Will's schedules don't really marry up. But Talk Wrestling is a thing. We're going to be doing shows in Cardiff, and you know, it's still a way for us to do wrestling interviews. So, in that regard, of course, the love for TalkSport remains. My day-to-day role at TalkSport, right, that kind of evolved over time. So when I first went there, they were like, you know, you've got experience in covering UFC and boxing, but, you know, WWE, we haven't really ever tried to do that. And we think there could be something there and you'd be the guy to do it. Right. They came and asked me and I was like, okay, great. It was a pay rise. You know, doing wrestling on a bigger scale. Of course. Why not?
Yeah, definitely.
So I took that job. And then after that, you know, the stat I always love to throw out in 2018, I think they did like 30,000 clicks maybe for wrestling. And then I joined 2nd of January 2019. By the end of that year, they had 13 million. So it was like, once the bosses saw that, then the discussions for a show got rolling, right? And that's how the radio show came to be. And that was just the most wonderful time. It really was. Like, the only regret, well, it's not even a regret because there's nothing I could have done about it. But just as we got the show, like 2 months after, COVID like shut the world down.
Yeah.
So we never really got to do the things we wanted to do with that show. We wanted to do live shows. Like NXT, we were meant to be going to Ireland that summer. We wanted to go there.
Oh, yeah, because NXT Dublin, not Dublin.
It was
Dublin. It Dublin?
It was Dublin. We were meant to, you know, that was where the next takeover was going to be. And we wanted to go there and do a thing. We wanted to go to WrestleMania and do that. You know, live shows, interviews, all that stuff. Didn't get to do it. Couldn't get people in studio either. So,
yeah.
You know, Zoom stuff was obviously that, you know, became your bread and butter. So, you know, there wasn't. I was loving life at that time. and and obviously, like my profile grew as a result of the work that was being done. And then I think it was last August. I think it was last August. I'm getting my timeline.
Was it before? It was pre us speaking. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think.
I don't know if it was last summer. Maybe was it the summer before that? I think it was last summer. I can't remember. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. But anyway, I basically got the call that TalkSport 2 were changing what they were putting out on the show. So as a result, Talk Wrestling would be cancelled or moved, they called it. It wasn't just our show. There was like 3 or 4 shows that got cut, but ours was the only one they kept as a podcast because like our podcast goes out on a boxing feed. It's called Fight Night with TalkSport, and most weeks we beat the boxing. So they were like, well, that's worth keeping, just because the numbers were so strong. So once that happened, slowly, I don't know how to phrase this. So the original boss that I came under, who wanted me to do wrestling and all of this stuff, he kind of moved upstairs, and a new guy came in who wasn't as hot on wrestling.
Was it sort of the way I'll phrase it? Was it sort of a WCW? Like, I'm trying to use the analogy, like, you know how they always say that, like, TNT, someone moved away from Warner Brothers and TNT.
Like an executive direction.
Was it that sort of thing?
Kind of. So like the new guy just wasn't as hot on wrestling, and as a result, like my role kind of got not marginalized, but by the turn of the year, this year, they were like, you know what, like boxing UFC is your thing now. Like I was still allowed to do interviews for like the podcast, and we would, the good ones, or in their eyes, we would write up, but day-to-day wrestling news was like done. That we weren't doing that anymore. No more rumors, no more none of that stuff. No features. It was just and that kind of left me a bit
deflated.
Yeah, I felt like I'd built up a lot there, and then it was kind of like, okay, well, we're moving in a different direction. I mean, that's their prerogative, right? But the numbers to me seemed...
It's their business at the end of the day, isn't it?
The numbers to me seemed to suggest it was worth keeping. I even suggested maybe doubling down and like, okay, well, if we get a couple of people in and give it some real focus. But ultimately, that wasn't the direction, which was fine. I still loved doing the boxing UFC stuff, so I stuck with that. But they gave me a bit of a raise, but I'd been asking for more, which didn't come to pass. So then, just as the summer got rolling, I had spoken to somebody about the Daily Mail before. I have friends there, and but like the first role we spoke about, I was too senior for. And then this role that I've got now, the sports news editor role, came up, and then the guy I'd spoken to was like, maybe you should think about this one. I was like, okay, like it's worth exploring. And in my mind, I was thinking, I mean, I'll probably get an offer that I could at least take to TalkSport, and they'll give me a raise. That was the original.
Were you sort of trying to pull it back to a wrestling term? Were you sort of trying to play?
Yeah, trying to leverage it.
We always talk about how, for example, with AEW and WWE, you always get an offer from one company and try and take it to the other company, correct?
Yeah, I mean that's just the world.
That's right? Just business, really.
Yeah, if you get a job offer somewhere, then I mean, whether you're intent on taking it or not, you're going to present it to your boss and say, look, this is what I've got. And you lay out. It's only right to get the lay of the land before you make a final decision. So I thought, okay, worst case scenario, I'll do that. I sent my CV. Next day, the guy emailed me back and he was like, that's a good CV. Why don't you come in and have a talk? And I did that week. And then there was a bit of delay. I think I was one of the first people they saw. They had a lot of people to see. And I thought to myself, they're not going to get back to me. I didn't know, I didn't know how well, you never know how well an interview goes, like a job interview.
Yeah. I hate them.
You don't know these people before you get in there. You don't know how to read them. But my friend who works there was like, I think you're a contender. I was like, oh, okay. And eventually,
did you think at that point that maybe he was buttering you up is the wrong word, but trying to not keep you happy? That's the wrong word as well. But like trying to sort of almost big you up and at that point, or were you actually feeling good about the interview yourself?
I thought the interview had gone well. I just, you just don't know how well. And I thought there's probably more experienced people than me that will interview for this job. So whatever, right? Like I treat everything as an experience. Put yourself out there, and you don't know anything till you know it. Anyway, they came back with an offer, and it was just a lot higher than what I anticipated. So I kind of put myself in a position there. And then when I said to him, talked over with my missus and stuff, she was just like, I don't know, I don't think you can't not take it. I was like, yeah. And then when I took it to my boss, same thing. They were like, well, they kind of dithered. They were like, well, maybe you'll do something on the radio and the website will make like a hybrid role, but it probably still wouldn't be exactly that money. And the more I thought about it, and the more people I spoke to, because it is, being a news editor role for Daily Mail, which is ostensibly the biggest sports website in the UK.
Yeah.
Arguably, numbers wise anyway. I thought I probably do have to take that step anyway. I mean, how long would it take me at TalkSport to get to that? So yeah, that was it really. Like, again, nothing against TalkSport. It is a more economical decision. It was more, a lot more money. I've got 2 kids. Cost of living is high. Like,
yeah.
It's I know, people, anyone listening to this probably think, oh, it's true. It is that black and white where you just I have to make a decision. Did I really want to leave covering wrestling behind? Not really, but you have to, there's the cards that are dealt right now, and it's not really there.
So if you left covering wrestling in like a professional capacity, in terms of like with male sports, is that how? Were you looking for something like with Inside the Ropes to still have that wrestling outlet?
Well, I mean, that was certainly part of joining Male Sport, because I'm very aware that they don't really cover wrestling. Although, they're open-minded to certain stories and stuff, but they're not going to cover it anyway. I did say to them, would I still be able to do things outside of work? And they were like, do what you want, right? TalkSport were less like that. They wanted to know everything that I was doing and who it's with and why. And I do understand that. But Daily Mail are just like, when you're not working here, do whatever you want. So
I know you're not an independent contractor, but how an independent contractor should be, really.
Essentially, right? So obviously everyone knows I've kind of been with Inside the Ropes in a capacity for a few years now. Kenny's a great friend of mine. I love Kenny McIntosh to death.
What a guy. Like,
he's just a great guy, man.
I got to interview him this year, so he's one of my like favorite people. He set up a lot of Inside the Ropes stuff for me, so I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and wax lyrical about Kenny for a while. He's done so many great things for me. Before I took the Daily Mail job, he was somebody that I rung, and spent a long time on the phone getting his advice and wisdom, because he's a very smart guy. He's great to have a drink with too. He's both sides of the coin, Kenny is.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah. So I mean, again, when I was thinking to myself, bearing in mind that the WrestleTalk kind of ship had sailed, Ollie had said when the show stopped, maybe we'll talk in the new year and we might come up with something else. And I was like, okay, cool. But
with that point, just curious to know this, and I keep interrupting you. I do apologize, man.
It's fine.
Like, was there sort of a bit of like, you ended my show. I don't want to talk to you. That's the wrong word, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Was there sort of a bit of bitterness?
No, I wasn't bitter. I was sad that the show ended. And like, for reasons that I documented earlier, like the changes that were made, and I felt it could have been promoted better. But I totally understood Ollie's rationale. Like, we spoke about that, right? I understood.
Yeah.
Not that I agreed with it, but I understood why he did what he did. I wasn't, I'm not going to burn bridges about it. And I was delighted that Sat and SB3, although it's been cancelled now, but they were given the NXT show
at that time. Yeah,
WrestleTalk. So the good things did spawn from it, for my friends. I would have listened if Ollie. I'd still listen now if he picked up the phone, like just because I like him. But yeah, Ken. Like I said, Kenny is my guy. He always has been. And once we kind of looked at a way that I could maybe exclusively in a wrestling capacity. So I stopped writing for WrestleTalk magazine. Now I write for Inside the Ropes magazine. That's been the case for the past couple of months. All of my interviews for a couple of years now have gone on Inside the Ropes, and that's a great outlet. That when I went to WrestleMania, people were like, "Oh, it's Alex McCarthy from Inside the Ropes." I was like, "What do you mean? Like, I had a radio show. You from TalkSport is what you mean?" Kenny gets a good kick out of that I'm known for Inside the Ropes.
Do you like that? Do you like that though, or would you rather be known as the more mainstream guy?
I mean, it doesn't matter really. Like as long as people are enjoying what you do, it doesn't. Who cares? Who cares where? So yeah, man. Like that was a factor where me and Kenny spoke about it. It was like, okay, write for the magazine. The interviews already go on YouTube. And I started to get the bug again a few months ago. I'd say, I can't remember, maybe March-ish. I thought to myself, we could probably give this a shot. And we started speaking about, well, maybe we'll get it going after WrestleMania. And we were still kind of deliberating that. I saw Kenny at WrestleMania as well. Like we were out together and stuff, and we were still talking about it then. So it wasn't something that just happened. Like there was a couple of months where we went, okay, well, when, how, names, formats, money. There's all things you have to consider, right? So there was a few things I had in my mind. I said to Kenny, I'm not going to do it for free because it's your own time, right? I was like,
which fair dues.
Yeah, because that was another thing. Sat had a couple of offers where he was like, we could go here, we could go there. I was like, I'm not doing it for free. I'm just not. Like, and there's nothing wrong with people who do, but just it's from if you've got to value your own time.
If you want some money for this, I appreciate that.
nah, we're good. This is promotional material. It's good.
Thank you, good sir.
No, so that was one thing, and you had to be sat in SB3, and also it was okay. I don't want the same things that happened with the last show. I want to know that it'll be promoted fairly. So we have a great open dialogue with that. I want to know that we can have regular conversations about what the show looks like, when it airs, and how we can better utilize the promotional times and stuff like that. So with Kenny, I couldn't be more comfortable with someone. He's like the most honest, straight shooter you could ever wish for as a boss. So yeah, that was it.
With the fact that you've probably got a better personal relationship with Kenny than maybe you do with Ollie. Maybe I'm misconstrued in that.
Well, I know him. I know him better. Know him better. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's why the dialogue for your Monday show is maybe a bit more open than your dialogue for Wrestling Daily was?
Yeah, and it's not that the dialogue wasn't open for WrestleTalk, but it's just that they didn't have they just had other priorities, right? Like it's not that they didn't listen, they did, but like I said, I've got nothing bad to say about any of those guys. It's just Pete Quinnell as well. He was the guy who really helped the show and was often my buffer to Ollie. And he tried, like everyone tried. Like I don't want it ever to come across like the show failed because of anyone else. Like if it would have been successful, it would have been, basically.
I know what you mean, man.
But it's one of them where the dialogue was open, but they just have so much stuff. It's a bigger machine in that sense. Certainly on YouTube than Inside the Ropes. At its core, Inside the Ropes is a live event business. Let's not forget. So they got different things to worry about, and I understand how it goes. That's just the way it went. But with Kenny, he knows that I went to Inside the Ropes shows before I knew Kenny.
Yeah.
When I went to see Paul Heyman in London, like just as a fan, so I admired the brand anyway. When I was just getting into the game per se, Kenny was someone that I admired, and then luckily enough, it got to the point where the feeling was mutual, and Kenny liked my work, and then we got to work together, and we've just been pals ever since. So it's a very organic thing with Kenny. you know, it's kind of like friends before lovers, right? Like we were friends, and then it just so through meeting each other through work and stuff, and then eventually we're like, maybe we should just do business together, and it's been great that we did.
Fair enough. So I know, obviously, we've got to wrap this up soon because you've got other things
You got about 15, 20. You're all right.
You need to do, my good friend. So, like, with the whole, you wanting it to be sat, you wanting it to be SP3.
Yeah.
If Kenny had come to you and said, look, I'm not comfortable with that for whatever reason, would the show be a thing?
No.
Fair enough. I expected you to elaborate a bit more there, but
yeah. No, well, I mean, I will say what I was just saying earlier when I started to get the bug again, I have no need to do the show other than I want to do the show, right? So that's why you start to set certain parameters, as anyone does, right? It's like you have a relationship. Let's say you have a girlfriend, right? And then, I don't know, she's really jealous, right? And then with your next girlfriend, you think, I don't think I want that jealousy, right? And you look for other things. So when I was getting into the show, I just thought to myself, there are certain things that would detract from the enjoyment, and that's the only reason really for me to get back into it and do it. Like, it's not like the money's astronomical. It's just, it's done, so it covers the time. But part of the reason to do it was that I wanted to talk wrestling with my pals again, and they are my pals, and I think they're very talented pals. So
I fully agree.
It was a package deal, basically.
Fair enough. So you talked about it being a passion project, I'll put it that way, mainly for Inside the Ropes. So if you stopped loving wrestling, or your co-hosts stopped loving wrestling and wanted to step away, would you be like, okay, we've got to bring this to an end now?
Well, first of all, I'm really proud of how far Sat's come. He was obviously the late addition to Wrestling Daily, and this is a guy who you seldom see a guy as naturally charismatic as Sat. I would argue there isn't anybody in this wrestling space that carries the natural charisma as Sat. He wants to get into radio. He wants to use his personality in his career, and I really, really want that to happen for him.
So do I. He's such a nice guy as well.
Yes, listen, in the flesh, he's even better. He's a big bastard.
Is he?
He's a big bastard. He is. He says I'm big, but he's one of those like big brothers that just says that to
is he
play with.
Deceptively big as well? Like, you wouldn't think he's as tall as he is.
Yeah, he's a good couple of inches taller than me. He's definitely like early six. He's 6'1", maybe 6. I don't know. But he's jacked as well. He's a big guy. And yeah, it's just funny because the only reason I bring up his stature is because it's like he's so kind of docile and friendly. Not docile, but like he's got a juxtaposing nature.
I know what you mean.
I love that guy. He's one of the most, as I said earlier with Kenny, which is funny because Sat and Kenny got on like a house on fire when they met. Just like Kenny, I think both of them are so like what you see is what you get, and I love that in people. Like, no, you don't want to be worked by everybody you meet. They are exactly what they say on the tin, straight shooters, and they're just, Sat is lovely, funny bloke. He's great. But anyway, to come back to the question, obviously I would hope that he goes on to do great things. SB3 is already making great strides. If you look at his career year on year, mate, he is really making. He's been able to go full time in this. He, like I said, he's popping up on all kinds of different channels and gaining his own little appreciation and following. So both of them, him and Sat, I think, are going to do wonderful things with or without me, and that actually makes me happy. When I saw them get the NXT show, I thought that's fucking great. Like, being able to use that as a springboard. So I think what was your question? Whether but
basically, if you decided, like, for whatever reason, you decided to stop loving wrestling, or they stopped loving wrestling, would you be like, okay, the show's got to come to an end?
Well, yeah, that would lose its charm. But SB3 will never lose his love for wrestling. That man watches every wrestling match you can imagine. I don't know how he does it, frankly, but he does. And Sat, I mean, I don't know if his. This is where I was going with my original point, and my train of thought ran away. I don't know if you could. I don't know if you could confine Sat's charisma and personality just to wrestling. Like he could be so much bigger, in my opinion. I could see that man on national radio easily.
Oh, definitely.
Like his energy would easily transmit through a microphone, but I do think he's actually better for camera. But his choices will be his choices. For me, funnily enough, after we started the show, there was about a month period where I was like, "Oh man, wrestling sucks right now."
I think you spoke about this on a show recently.
I did. I said
think you did.
I said it a lot. I think I said it last Monday. There was a spell where I was like, "Oh man, wrestling is just not good right now." Like Dynamite, to me, has been the better show for a long time. It just speaks to the kind of wrestling that I like, more closely mirrored to kind of WWE turn of the millennium. Raw became, there were so many parts of it where I would just get frustrated and think, oh man, this just sucks. Like they made their own little rules to spite themselves half of the time. So many DQs and just awful storylines, no energy in the shows, no kind of excitement. Once in a blue moon you might get an out. And I was like, I'm tired of this. But Triple H and the way he's approached it has really rekindled my love for wrestling, certainly for the WWE anyway. Like this week in isolation, Gargano's return, great surprise. Then you get in the main event, I thought the closing shot of Beth Phoenix in their teaser, Rhea Ripley, was fucking fantastic. Like Raw has not really had those kind of
moments for years, I'd say.
No, well, certainly the way the show climaxes, like again, going back to the turn of millennium, every week used to be a kind of if not a cliffhanger, there'd be something crazy going on. They've lost that energy. So I'm glad to see Triple H is trying to bring it back, man. So I don't think there's a danger of all three of us, losing our luster, but I think, circumstances may change at some point. While it's fun, we'll continue to do it.
Fair enough. So as we look at wrapping this up, Alex, obviously I want to say thank you for coming back on. But as you've seen some of my work, the question I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general. We're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very weird way. So I asked you this last time, and you said it was a Triple H interview because you got to do basically a full interview with him and about the video you want to live forever. But what is something what is a video? Has that changed? Is there a video now that you maybe want to live forever? And then what is one, if you want the people to know your body of work, maybe don't check that one
out. You know what? Like in terms of interviews that I wouldn't want people to see, that I've definitely done a few down the years that didn't see the light of day just because they weren't good.
What's your thoughts on posting, just quickly, what's your thoughts on, like, if an interview's not good, still posting it because it might have something in it, or it shows your progression as a young creator?
I think it depends who you're beholden to, right? Like if it's just yours and you're like,
so like me, for example.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends, what you're looking for in that content. Like the yours is a more humanizing side of interviewing. The things that when I worked at Give Me Sport, this is before TalkSport, I had gone to like SummerSlam and I did a couple of interviews, and two of them were Miro, Rusev at the time, and Samoa Joe. Big fan of both guys, right? But I couldn't interview them like this. I couldn't have a sit down. You get like 5 minutes. It's a press junket. And Give Me Sport at the time was a very social driven outlet, meaning you asked kind of funny, shareable questions.
Think you told this story last time, and you had to play a really silly game with them, if I remember correctly.
I mean, we were trying to do this Twitter game and it just didn't work, right? Like, and you got to remember, it's like 7 a.m. These junkets, like, it's early, they're tired, and you don't know them. I'd never met either of these guys before. This was the first time I'd interviewed them. Luckily, I've had them both since. We're great guys. But at that time, man, it just didn't hit. And I just said to the cameraman after, like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I also tried to do, because we do like a quick fire, 60 seconds, right?
Yeah.
That was another hallmark of Gimme Sport.
Normally I would do that, but obviously I'm trying to be respectful of your time here.
I'll let you do that after this.
Okay.
And I tried to do that with Shinsuke Nakamura, right? His English obviously isn't good, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it certainly wasn't then, like 2017. Again, it just didn't work. Like, it could have been, people might have laughed at it because it was that bad. So it might have been worth sharing for that. But you don't want to mock the interviewee
Oh no.
where possible either. So that also didn't see the light of day. But me and my cameraman still joke about that now because I should have known better. But yeah, you're tasked by the company you work for getting certain content. It's not up to you, right? Sometimes I think people don't realize that watching from afar, why did he ask that question? I was, your editor is asking you to. So yeah, but I had much more autonomy in TalkSport, and I really feel like that's where I broke through because I was able to showcase, ask questions that me, the fan, would want to know. And and I feel like that resonated with a lot of people. What would I like a video to live on? Honestly, I only give a shit what my kids think about me.
Really?
I only care. I guess that's not 100% true because when you read something on Twitter that would be like, "Oh, Alex did a great job," it's great to read. And alternatively, if someone goes, "This guy's shit," you're like, "Oh, that sucks," right?
Yeah,
So it does make me feel that way. But I just mean at the end of the day, right? Let's say when I'm old and grey, maybe near on my deathbed, I won't give a fuck about any of that. Who will, right? Sometimes you need to have that perspective of like, that stuff really doesn't matter. It does at the time. I still do it now. Like, I think I had an interview with AJ Styles the other week. I looked at some of the YouTube comments and they were like, "Oh, would you let AJ speak?" And I thought, I didn't think I was that bad. But then you watch it back and you start to think, and then you're inside your own head at that point. You need to not do that, really. Take criticism from the right people would be my advice. I think it's a video that lives on. Like, again, it hasn't really changed. I would love my girls just to know that I was pretty good at what I did. But being a father is a million times more important to me than anything that I'll leave behind in my interview work or anything like that. Like, it's unrivaled. So hopefully that my girls think their dad was a good guy and a good dad would be the one.
Normally I would do the 60 seconds thing, but that's a beautiful way to end it. So we're gonna wrap this up if that's okay. So where can the good people find you, Alex, and your content?
Well, I have changed my Twitter handle because I left TalkSport. So the blue tick is momentarily departed. But yeah, it is. I think I have to wait 30 days or something. Anyway, at Alex McCarthy 88, you can find my work and some of my tweets. I think it's Alex McCarthy IG for the Instagram. That's less important. Otherwise, I'm doing my thing over at Daily Mail, but you won't see a lot of my work because I'm directing work to others. You see, moving upstairs. But Inside the Ropes, of course, is where you can find me. All my interviews will be there on their main channel. On ITR Clips, you'll see Monday Night Live with my guys SP3 and Sai Niangi. So yeah, Inside the Ropes is your hookup, and also I write in their weekly, in their monthly magazine. Yeah, wow, that'd be a lot of print work. But yeah, for all your wrestling needs, Inside the Ropes is where you'll find me.
It's well worth doing, guys. So if you guys like this video, as always, like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow bodyslam.net wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube for my show of Cassidy Haynes, the WrestleWatch podcast. And follow the WrestleWatch pod on Twitter to help us pick our match every week. And I will see you in the next one. A goodbye.